What's up, Duke fans, and welcome to another episode of Duke Blue Central. Good win today. Good win today for the Duke Blue Devils. Happy to be coming at you 2-0 as the Duke season has just begun. And let me tell you, anytime you look on the Duke scoreboard and there's triple digits by the name Duke, pretty good day at the office, if you ask me. Although the beginning of this game didn't always feel like they were going to hit that number to a lot of people, but we'll get into that shortly. But if you missed the game, Duke was able to play Army West Point today. Always a great game. We donned the special kind of Coach K signature gray, Army gray jerseys today in honor of playing Army, which is always a special day whenever you get to play those guys. It obviously means so much to the Duke program with the ties to Coach K. So just hats off to the Army guys. We appreciate them and all they do for the country. And it's a great opportunity that Duke gets to play pretty consistent non-conference games with those guys. I'm happy that that's kind of become a tradition for us. But nevertheless, Army this year is, I think, expected to be a little bit weaker than they have been in previous years, and obviously, it's a tough recruiting sell to get guys to go to Army with everything that comes with that. But even so, this year I think they're a weaker team than they've been in the past, and Duke took care of business today. Final score 100-58. Pretty good day. Pretty good day at Cameron for Duke. The game didn't always start out looking like it was going to be a high offensive, high octane day, but eventually it clicked on, and Duke was able to take control of this game pretty quickly. In the beginning, Army was, I don't want to say hanging around. I was never watching this game in fear of Duke losing or even Duke being relatively close to losing. And a large part of that in the first half was because of how great Duke's defense was playing. This was an incredible first half defensive performance from Duke. The Army only shot 21% and from the field, 13% from three in the first half, which was an incredible amount. I think there were times. If there were times that Army was on scoring droughts that were minutes long, and it just felt like they were never going to score no matter what we could do. Army's plan going into this game, kind of similar to how they play every game, is their approach is a little Virginia-esque with slowing the game down, minimizing the amount of possessions in the game, and trying to play good defense, but particularly they played okay perimeter defense in the first game, although that was probably because of poor shooting on the other end. But they pride themselves on the defensive side of the ball while playing slow. And obviously, I mean, you could tell by the box score that didn't go to plan. But it was, I don't know if it was part of their game plan, but at the beginning of this game, Duke was getting wide open looks for three and just missed them. Duke started off this game 1 for 11 from three. And as you check Twitter, if you check Twitter at that part of the game, you would have seen a lot of the people talking about how Duke needed it to get inside and we needed to take advantage of our size more, which is true. As you know, and we've talked about it some, Duke is huge this year. Nobody on the team other than Spencer Hubbard is under 6'5", which is proving to be a big advantage in rebounding for this team already early in the season. And I think Army's tallest player, or about the average size of an Army player, is even shorter, I think, than 6'5", or maybe. So we had a huge size advantage. A lot of people wanted us to bang it down there inside. Although I don't know if look, I mean, we started the game 1 for 11 from three, so that's obviously bad. That's obviously a bad shooting split. But the thing is with this Duke team is I think we've proven already. This is maybe the quickest I've ever seen a team, and have already been willing to say we're a great three-point shooting team and there's no need to worry about it. A couple factors contribute to that. It's one of my big factors is that it's not just one or two players on this team that can shoot it from the outside. It'd be one thing if we were talking about just Concanipple and Sion James are the three-point shooters, but it feels like at any point in the game, there are 4 to 5 guys that you can reliably count on for 35% plus from outside. Just to list off a few: Caleb Foster, Tyrese Proctor, Concanipple, Sion James, Mason Gillis, and maybe you lump Isaiah Evans into that if he's playing consistent minutes. But any one of those guys with an open three, you feel absolutely confident that they're going to knock it down. And even the other guys, I didn't mention Cooper Flagg. He has shown the ability to hit from the outside. He went 2 for 4 today, made his first 3-pointer as a college player here at Duke. He's a guy you can't just sag off and leave totally open, but I'm talking about consistently hitting at a really high clip. Any of those guys, when they are wide open and they put it up, you're almost expecting it to go in. By the way, Darren Harris is absolutely in that too. I missed his name, but Isaiah Evans and Darren Harris, maybe you can't. If they're getting consistent minutes, they would count in that list. We'll see how that goes as the season develops. So when we started the game 1 for 11, I realized it was a bad shooting performance, but the team is too good to shoot that poorly for that long. I just, even while watching it, I just knew, okay, the lid's going to come off the basket eventually, and we're going to like score in bunches. And by the way, that's happened in some scrimmages in the first game against Maine. Where it's like for a minute, it's taken Duke a while to really open the basket up, especially from the outside. But man, once it starts, it really gets going. Our second half's offensive splits are insane this season compared to our first half, and we haven't had two poor first halves. Which is what's wild. But like for example, if I told you we started the first half 1 for 11 from three, you probably would guess that our 3-point percentage was really in the tank. It ended up being in the first half 31.8% from three, which I think is not that great for this Duke team. But man, like there are other years where you see that number and it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad of a shooting half. Now it does make it a little worse. Keep in mind, like we shot 22 threes in the first half. We were 7 for 22. Listen, if you're tired of watching this Duke team shoot threes, you're just gonna have to keep watching it because it is clear that the offensive identity of this team is inside out. Either you're shooting a three or you're taking a shot in the lane. I mean, I cannot tell you how many shots, like it felt like there were almost no shots that were from the mid-range level. It felt like everything was either a three or a basket inside. Total, Duke attempted 38 threes of our 71 shots for today. That is a that is a massive performance. Obviously that is a huge number. Over half of our attempted shots from the game today were from three. Now, look, do you want to see that number come down a little? Maybe. I think when you realize you might go 1 for 11. Maybe they could have stopped shooting it a few shots earlier. But I'm kind of the belief that, like, man, those shots in the first half, I couldn't find a really bad three. Maybe there were some quick ones, but they were all open and they were all taken by guys who hit that shot on the regular. And I'm kind of the belief that you need to keep that confidence up and that you can make that shot, and you need to keep the defense honest that you're going to shoot that shot if you're that open, because that's a big key to the offense too, is just the defense knowing the threat of the outside shot opens up the lane for a lot more action for guys like Cooper and Malwatch. I Look, I mean, I know it's not ideal to start the game 1 for 11. We had the lead the whole time. We're gonna have other games. In our next game on Tuesday, I believe it's against Kentucky. If we start the game 1 for 11, I don't think we'll have the lead. But I have confidence that, I mean, like, to give you a little spoiler for the second half, we went 10 for 16 from three, which is 62%, ending the game with a 44% from three. I mean, that's a heck of a good number. That's just think about that. Like, this was a game Duke started 1 for 11 from three, and we end the game shooting 44% from outside. If nothing else, that should tell you, one, this team is a heck of an outside scoring team, and two, they can get it going in a hurry. And if you watch the games, you know this. It feels like once Con Knipple hits that first three, get ready because he himself is about to launch up about three more in the next 2 minutes, and everybody else, once they see one go down, it's over. I mean, like it's it can be lights out quick. This Duke team can score 15 points in a hurry. So just a little warning to all the opposing teams and even the fans out there. If we ever get down, let's say 10 to 15 in a game, there's no way I'm going to be giving up on this team because we could have. I mean, it is not crazy to imagine a situation where you're looking at this team scoring 10 to 15 points in a hurry. We can get 9 in 3 possessions easy. I mean, I wonder how many times we've done that on the season where it's been 3 triples back to back to back. We've done it, consecutive triples a bunch. It feels like we do that a bunch in every game, especially, well, when you're shooting half of your shots from outside, that's going to happen. But it's obvious that this team is going to be a team that focuses on scoring on the outside, which is going to open up the lane. And if teams are going to have to really honestly defend you that hard from three, Cooper and Common and the other guys, Malik Brown, even driving guys like Caleb Foster and Proctor, they're going to have an easier time getting to the basket, knowing that there is always a lethal shooter on the outside. I mean, just think about even the starting lineup. If take Malawach, he's down there. If you're running an offensive set, Cooper Flagg drives into the paint and is threatening to make a lay-in or something like that. Common's down there with you. The 3 guys you have on the perimeter waiting for a kick-out pass are Caleb Foster, Tyrese Proctor, and Con Knipple. All 3 of them are, 35% plus three-point percentage shooters. I know Con's, it's young in his career. Caleb, I think, shot above 35% for last year, but it was on somewhat limited attempts. Proctor, I think, hit that 35 mark last year or around it. I mean, but any one of those guys, when they get an open shot, I mean, you're expecting it to go down. For today, Con went 4 for 6 from 3. Incredible numbers. Tyrese went 4 for 9. I think like 2 of them were back to back, and I think all of them were in the second half. Caleb only went 1 for 3. Not a lot of attempts, but still, that is a nightmare defensively. You have to be on each one of those guys in their laps basically to affect a shot. And the crazy thing about all of them is that they're all unselfish enough to make the extra pass to find the more open one of them who is likely going to knock that down. And hey, let's say you take one of them off. Let's say Proctor's out. You got Sion James in there, arguably equally as good of a shooter. Or let's say another one was out. Mason Gillis is probably roaming around out there, and he's a career 40% three-point shooter who shot 47% last year at Purdue. So this is just if you can get that outside in game working offensively for this Duke team, it's a nightmare to defend because there are so many shooters on the outside, and their unselfishness is a big part of why they're successful. Again, any one of these guys is willing to make the extra pass to a more open man, and we've seen them do that, and we saw them do that in this game. But yeah, once the lid came off the basket after going 1 for 11, the three-point shots were really good, and most of them felt like they went in. As far as player highlight today, gosh, I don't know what I can say super negatively about any of these guys. Cooper had an awesome game. He actually didn't score in the second half. There's one negative. It's this cramping stuff that's going on with Cooper, which totally isn't his fault. If you watch the Paolo Banchero season for Duke, he dealt with a lot of similar stuff early in the season where he seemed to be cramping up. This is 2 games in a row where Cooper has had some cramping issues, so I hope the Duke staff can figure that out. And, maybe because I don't think against some of these bigger teams we're going to want him off the floor that much. He feels like he's going to have a great game every game. But, yeah, we want him out there as much as we can. So let's figure out this cramping stuff. Even if it takes resting him maybe a few more minutes in the first half, we want him down the stretch in the second half. And he wasn't able to play a ton of minutes down the stretch this game. He rested a lot, which is fine. I mean, look, we beat this team we scored 100 on them. You didn't need him out there. I agree with the decision to let him rest. Army only led this game for 18 seconds. It was never in contention. So yeah, I understand that. But if there's one negative takeaway, it's that we need to figure out this situation of how we're going to keep him on the floor. I trust that they'll figure it out. They figured it out for the most part against Paolo. That got better as the as the season went along, and I think that maybe that staff can draw back on what they were able to do with him, and do the same with Cooper. But like I said, another big factor of this game was Duke's defense. There were at Army ended up with 58 in this game, which, I mean, holding a team sub 60. If the opposing team doesn't get to 60 points, I mean, it's going to be pretty much impossible to beat Duke this season. I mean, I don't even like. It feels like we could hit 60 in our sleep. And we'll see. Maybe I'm talking crazy when we play Kentucky. Kentucky's a high octane offensive team, but when we play a defensive team, they'll hold us, strap us down, and But it just like, man, the way this offense scores, it feels like you're going to have to put up a lot of points to beat us. Um, but yeah, like if our defense is playing this well, we're holding schools to, sub 60, 70 points. Feels like it's going to be we're going to be a tough team to beat. But a big part of this game was a rebounding battle as well. We ended up out rebounding them. We had 50 boards in this game compared to their 32. That was a big part of the game. Cooper got a double-double in the first half. He had finished the game with 13 and 11. All of that in the first half. He didn't score, or I don't think, or record a rebound in the first half. In the second half, Malawach ended with 14 rebounds, 11 points. His first career double-double. Also a guy that just sucks up. It feels like every rebound that comes his way. I thought Come on had a pretty good game today. Still learning the basics, but he had a good dunk. So I would like to see him just when he pulls down a rebound, he's looking to kick out, and I respect that. But I think he could flush a lot of those home, and he got better at that today. And I'll be looking for him to keep doing that as the season goes along. Also, man, and we talked about this against the first game in Maine, but or not all of them seniors, but the older experienced transfers are just proving like that John Shire really did a good job of assembling this roster this season. Because our three guys off the bench, Malik Brown, Sion James, and Mason Gillis, they just bring a lot of versatility to this team and a lot of just positive impact. It feels like every time Malik's out there, he's making a defensive deflection, or just it just feels like he's always making the right play. He's a guy you don't have to draw a play up for on offense. He's probably only going to shoot the ball like 5 times in total in the game, and most of the time they're going to be put back dunks or something right at the basket. Menace defensively, can switch and guard positions. He's got the fastest hands of anyone on this team. I don't know how he manages to get the steals that he gets. Just an awesome guy to have. We got him for a few years, ideally too. Sion James and Mason Gillis will only get the pleasure of having them for 1 year, but Sion just feels like a classic old experienced guard. He's physical. He can shoot the outside shot. He finished with 12 points today, but man, when he gets going downhill, it's scary because that guy is built like a linebacker, and I wouldn't want to be stepping in the way of catching a charge from Sion James. But another guy that also just like, no turnovers today. Gets a couple of 4 assists as well, coming off the bench, playing 18 minutes. Like, it just feels like he's always going to be level-headed, and he's talking a lot in the huddles. You can see that on the court. Just a guy that a player that every team needs. And the same could be said about Mason Gillis. Big bodied defender that can really shoot it from 3 and is a constant. I mean, you can watch anything, even in the huddle off court when he's not in the game. Mason Gillis is always talking. He's a guy who's played in 11 NCAA tournament games, so his experience is just going to continue to prove dividends on the rest of these young guys. But even today, he had a plus minus of plus 32, which I think was good it was third highest. Khan had 38. Sion actually had a plus 44, which is crazy. Have you ever heard of a plus minus of 44? It's wild. Like, for example, Cooper's only was 15. Now, look, a lot of that's due. Cooper played almost 25 minutes of this game. But Khan played 27. He was plus 38. But yeah, I mean, the 3 transfers are just like, they're a pleasure. The fit is just awesome. It's like, and like I said earlier, Sion and Mason having the ability to shoot from the outside, completely relates with Duke's offensive plan, which is to get down in the paint or kick out for an open three. Mason's he's driven a few times, but he's definitely more of a weapon on the outside. But Sion is the same type of guy. He's either going to take his shot right below the basket or it's going to be a three, and that totally fits the identity of his team. And that was fully on display today. Another huge thing I want to highlight is, again, for the second consecutive game, we've had 6 guys score in double digits. Double-digit scorers today were Cooper Flagg, Common Malawach, Caleb Foster, Tyrese Proctor, Conka Nipple, and Sion James off the bench. A couple other guys got close. Mason had 8. We were close to having 7 guys score in double digits. And I believe the Duke Twitter account posted this, but I believe the the past 2 games of this season are the only games in the John Shire era where Duke has had 6 double-digit scorers. And I honestly, I don't see this slowing down. Maybe against really elite competition, you see a game where Sion isn't able to hit his shots, and we want Foster and Proctor in for longer stretches of the game. But just honestly, the way that these guys play and the way that there is almost no drop off, and sometimes you get an upgrade when Sion's on the court, just depending on the opponent. I just don't. I think this minute split is pretty reasonable to what we're going to see against some high competition. Obviously, I think we're going to want Cooper in there more. He would have played today more had it not been for the cramping. Maybe you see that get slashed a little, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Shire coaches this game against Kentucky. Obviously, it's going to depend on how the game is going. Is it really close? Do we pull out to a lead, or do they have a big lead? That changes how you're going to switch your rotation. But we'll see. I mean, I've liked the minutes split that we've had so far. I think there's an obvious 8 guys that are your core dudes, and then I think you've got Isaiah Evans and Darren Harris are kind of your cleanup guys that when the game is somewhat in hand, you can leave those guys in there for stretch minutes, just to get them some valuable playing time. They're also a guy that, if one of our guys has an injury, you could easily slide them up in the rotation, and you're going to have maybe some drop off, but they can still shoot the ball and do positive things offensively. Defense is probably where you'd struggle the most with either of them. But yeah, that's what they're learning, and they're going to be good players. They're going to be good players this year and in the future. Already are good. But yeah, those were the big highlights from this game. Don't have a super long recap for you guys today. Duke did turn the ball over a little more than you'd like. They actually lost the turnover battle, 16 turnovers. Had a lot of second chance points opportunities. We ended up with 17. It could have been more than that. We had 17 offensive rebounds as well, which normally results in more second chance points. We actually didn't punish that until later in the game. Again, Duke finishes with 36 points off the bench, which is just going to be. I mean, some of this is a little padded because you've got guys like Evans, Harris, even like Hubbard scored a shot, but you're going to see this Duke team have a lot of production from their bench, which is just really comfortable, and it's not something a lot of Duke teams have had the pleasure of having in the past. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this episode. I mean, when Duke scores 100, there's a lot of good things to highlight. From a player standpoint, I thought everybody played pretty well. Khan continues to lead us in scoring what feels like going to be most nights. Cooper probably would have done that had he played more in the second half. But again, from a point scoring perspective, I think it's clear it's going to be those 2 guys and then everybody else. But look, Foster and Proctor aren't too far behind him, and especially Proctor had moments today where it felt like he couldn't miss. And I know there are going to be games where they step up and lead the team in scoring as well. But just a great performance from Duke. Got a big game coming up on Tuesday against the Kentucky Wildcats, who have also put up 100 points on the season. So that's going to be a really good matchup. Kentucky's kind of, I think, flown under the radar a little bit this year. The obvious thing with them is no John Calipari at the head coaching position. Obviously that was a huge, huge departure for them. They're an older team now, filled with a lot of transfers. I don't know how the chemistry is going yet, but they're kind of they're sneaky old compared to most Kentucky teams you think of, where they're having NBA draft picks every year, similar to how Duke is. So we'll see. That's going to be a really interesting game. It's going to be played at a neutral site in Atlanta. That'll be a game where Duke really gets tested. We haven't really been tested all that much in the season so far. We're really going to find out what this Duke team is made up when we, go away from Cameron, see how these guys play, not quite on the road, but in an environment where not everybody in the building is rooting for you to win against a team that's going to bring a lot of fans, a lot of experience in their lineup. So we'll see how that goes. These first two tune-up games have been really encouraging. Duke keeps shooting well, keeps playing defense well. We're going to be a tough out against anybody. But yeah, okay, that's all I'll give you guys for this episode. I hope you guys are enjoying this season, enjoying the show. If you want to help us out, leave us a rating wherever you're listening. You can follow me over on Twitter at DukeBlueCentral. Love to interact with you guys over on there. It's been always a fun time over on Twitter tweeting about Duke basketball. Love that the community is growing all the time, it feels like. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you're enjoying. Go Blue Devils.